Hey, my name is Mas, and this is my after post walk response video. So, as I'm recording this video, I'm going to go through the responses that are on the site. So, glad to be done with the walk and glad to have done it. It was a wonderful experience. So, introduce myself and my relationship to Philadelphia. So I was born and raised in Philadelphia, so I feel like uh, it's always been my home, and it's a big part of who I am as well. So yeah, I love Philadelphia. Talk about why you participated in the perimeter walk. I always wanted to take a walk around the city, but this was a safe, sanctioned way to do it, and other people were a part of it. So I appreciated that about it. You had support. JJ was very, went out of his way to be really helpful. So that made a big difference. And I wouldn't say I wanted necessarily to do a walk around Philly. I had tried walking through Philadelphia in different ways, just for my own way. But I really, like I said, I appreciate this organized approach to it, this thoughtful, practical approach, and also it's interactive and engaging with other people, and that makes a huge difference. So, highlight. Oh, talk about what the experience was like. So it was a good experience. It was it mirrored life in a lot of ways because it wasn't just an easy experience. It wasn't just a pleasant experience. It wasn't always a magical experience either. But it was uh, it was full of life. It was interesting. Um, it reminded me of parts of myself I kind of forgot about because I did the walk pretty consistently. Like I dedicated 5 days to it with me and a friend. So we we did the walk all day. Like as long as there was sunlight, we were walking. So I think for that reason, we were really absorbed in the walk. So that gives you kind of a nice, a lot of room to have a zone to reflect in and um, kind of be away from the usual cycles that define the life that one gets used to. So it was a good experience. And I think one that helps give me clarity on other experiences in my life that don't seem related to the walk, but are able to be seen and felt with a different kind of more refreshed perspective when the walk is kind of like a good medium for that. Let's put it that way. So, talk about a highlight. A highlight of the walk was we were trying to find a way through. This was like around. It's from Dunk's Ferry to Glens Ford, like around that part of the trail, and we were trying to find a way. We were trying to decide: do we walk down the street or do we cut through the path through the woods? And so we tried the woods, and that was interesting. We tried to figure out how to cross a creek because we wanted to save our sneakers. And last time we tried to cross through some water, we actually got our sneakers wet, and that really affected the rest of our trip. So we were like, okay, this time we're gonna do like they did, take our shoes and socks off and cross, and then put them back on. And we were jumping over banks and you know trying to figure out like we don't want to trespass, but at the same time we want to stay true to walking the perimeter. Um, and You see a lot of interesting things when you go to areas that aren't frequented by a lot of people. Sometimes it's beautiful and magical. Sometimes it's a little scary. Um, so that's a highlight, I would say, is walking through the creeks and the wooded areas. And also another highlight too, I might add, is you get to be in contact with a lot of people on the way. And this might not be everybody's experience, but it's definitely our experience that pretty much every single person who we stopped to talk to for some reason or another was kind. So that's always a refreshing reminder, that you have a lot of kind people just in general. So a challenge, talk about a challenge. I think the biggest challenge for me was walking in the midst of traffic. I don't like that at all, especially like expressway type traffic and bridges and like not me. And I'm from the city, so it's not traffic that's the problem. It's there were times where we didn't have a sidewalk, and there were cars coming this way and that way, so we'd walk on one side of the street facing the cars so that we'd see them coming, and then we'd have to listen for cars coming up behind us. And we're thankful that two cars didn't come, and sandwich us. But we're fine, and everything was cool. And it's an experience. But that was a challenge, and also another challenge is finding one's way, and making sure we're hitting the points while still walking the perimeter and finding paths that are actually traversable, that are walkable. So, talk about walking in general. I love to walk anyway. My friend who joined me, he loves to walk anyway. So that made a big difference. We were walkers to begin with. And also in the city, like we're both from the city, so we like walking throughout the city. But our feet hurt, our legs hurt. He had to stop and get new soles for his shoes, and he actually threw a pair of shoes out. And he liked walking on the grass, but I preferred level surfaces. I started with shoes that I thought were going to be completely wouldn't be the best shoes to walk in, but they lasted me the whole trip, so that was cool. But I don't think I'm going to keep them now. I think I'm going to throw them out after the journey, but we'll see. But walking was cool. I think it's important that you walk it, because I don't think you could have the same experience if you say, well, let's walk to this point and then catch a SEPTA this way or an Uber that way or this or that or bike here. I think the fact that you walk from one point that you start at all the way around the city and get to back to that point really does kind of is like the bow on the whole experience. So I think that's important. So I appreciate that, JJ, because it kind of closes the loop in your mind too for like something you just started and finished completely, and that's very, very helpful. Talk about what the perimeter walk meant for you and how it impacted you. I thought a lot about nature. So, like I said, I grew up in Philly. I had a friend when I was a kid who was half Lenape, and I used to go see him do his rituals down in Belmont Plateau. So, I think a lot about what this land meant to people, maybe before it was the way we recognize it now. And I feel like even with all the things that have changed, with all that's been built on top of it, and the ways that it's been, you could say industrialized or whatever, or subdued, you can still see some of the majesty of the natural land. The hills, the trees, the grass, the woods, the animals. We saw, lots and lots of deer, dead and alive and dead. Um, and I feel like, just being a human being on this earth, that's always a good reminder that, you know, before we had streets and houses and cars and all these things, a large part of who we are is also found in this organic, kind of natural spirit of what life is like without a whole lot of extra development, or like all these other things we do to make it more convenient. It was nice to walk through the woods and see things not really adhering to any kind of structure, but just doing their thing. So yeah, it's a good meditation. That I don't always feel I have the same chance to do when I'm in the midst of life here in the city and having to keep up with systems I have in place to, make sure I'm on the right track. So that was one of the biggest impacts the walk had on me, was contemplating my interaction with just what's natural. I guess you could put it that way. Talk about whether you would do it again and why. Here's why I wouldn't do it again. it's it's good, but beyond just the mental experience, I don't know what it accomplishes. I'll put it that way. So it's like, it doesn't have enough of a tangible fruit for me to want to do it again for all the effort that it's worth. But I would do it again for this reason, because I think that it's one of the most clarifying experiences for one's mind and body, and it's a good orientation of like your reality. And I think that with that reminder, with reminders like that more constant in my life, I think my life can bear more fruit, and I can be like less subjected to my life and more kind of like in control, or at least understanding of like what's up, where I am, who I am, all these simple things. Like it's kind of nice to feel like you're in a relatively clear space about it, and in an able place to do what you think you're here for doing. So talk about what you'd like to see happen with the project next in the future. I just think more people doing it. I mean, if more people doing it would make the perimeter more walkable, if not by any kind of like city, if not by any kind of big government gestures to like change courses or anything, but just by like, like when you walk in the woods, paths are forged just by people treading on them often enough. Same thing with this. I feel like it's a really simple exercise, just walking around in a circle, the place that you call home, to know it, to at least know where you are. It's such a simple thing. So I think having that attitude toward who we are and why we're here and all that stuff leads to, I think good things in other areas too that might not seem to have a connection, but maybe do. Okay, talk about anything else you'd like to share with people considering participating in the perimeter walk. I would just say JJ is awesome for doing this, and I'm really proud and honored and grateful to be a part of it. So thank you, and I hope you have a good experience. It's definitely doable. It's possible. I'm still here. I'm still, like I made it. And the fact that I'd even consider doing it again is a really powerful testament to what a, what an interesting experience this is. So thanks again, JJ. And I hope that anybody who decides to do this walk can find the guidance they need and get an experience that is worthwhile for them. All right, peace and love. Thanks.